Hi everyone, it's Marquet here, Lemon Creation, and today we're gonna be doing backgrounds. I prepare for you 18 backgrounds. Some of them are quite unusual, I think. With the products you have at hand, you don't have to have as many products as I use, but I use quite a lot to just show you how versatile these backgrounds can be and that you can actually use wherever you have. So I prepare for you a little bit of sneak peek at some of the products you're gonna be using. And as I said, they are all replaceable, I think, or you can change them to your liking. And I pre-cut the paper to the small, half of the A5 size, and I'm using Aquapat paper, which is basically a watercolor paper, not very good quality. It's not a cotton one, it's a cold presto. And I'm gonna start with this technique, which you know already. This is salt. This one is actually Himalayan salt, but the thing with salt, you can use it in different ways, and everything depends on the salt you have and on the grains you have. I was thinking to get my fine grain salt, but I was too lazy basically to get up from my chair, and I decided to do two different techniques. First one, when I put first on the paper the salt, I sprayed it delicately with water to make the salt react a little bit, and then I'm using Lindy's gang sprays to add the spray to the salt. So basically the technique you know, and which is usually used with the watercolors, is that you add watercolors and then when they are drying you sprinkle a little bit of salt on it. I never done this technique when you actually put the salt first and then you add the sprays. So it was an experiment for me. I said, okay, why not try like that? I'm gonna put it away, I'm gonna let it air dry, and then we're going to the second technique, which most of you know already. It's not very unusual, this one, but as I said, there is gonna be some unusual ones, at least in my opinion, and some of the techniques you surely know. So yes, you're gonna get a mix of the techniques and with my spin on them. This one, I think some of you may be seen in one of my shorts, but it's a technique I've been using for quite some time. It's an acetate pen or markers transfer, and I love this technique. I love how nicely and unexpectedly the results can be. But the last time I actually offered myself these beautiful highlighters. They were on offer in my shop and I just love so much colors, and when I've seen them, so many colors, I said I'm gonna use them. And I've done a short trying if they do the same work as pens or markers, and they do. So you basically can use, those are Stabilo highlighters, but I also use aqua marker, so you can use wherever you have at home. Most of those things work, and you just put them on the piece of acetate or even on acrylic block. You spray a little bit of water and then you transfer it, you flip it over and you transfer it to the paper. And I really love the fact that they are transferable. I was thinking the highlighters are not gonna work this way, but they do. The permanent markers, of course, they will not work. I didn't try, but I am pretty sure they won't work because they will not react with water. But anything else can work. And even the school grade pens, like Big, for example, they will work as well. At least most of them, because I know at some point one of my children had one kind of a set of pens which didn't work very well. So that can happen also, but any aqua markers and as I said, highlighters and school grade markers will work. Alcohol markers will not. I tried that and I couldn't manage with that. So here is another of my backgrounds. I am kind of a grungy artist. I love grunge, I love distress look. I'm not perfectionist at all. So you're gonna see all of my backgrounds are a little bit messy. Bah, not all of them, but that's the look I look forward to, and that's the look I appreciate the most. And so now I'm using the Fresco chalk acrylics from PaperArtsy. And here is another technique. And as I mentioned, you can use different mediums, different paints, whichever you have at home. So I didn't want to do a video when I use the one type of paints or whatever and do with that the backgrounds. Or even I didn't want to, you know, just restrain myself and yourself to a set of products. So that's why I am gonna be varying the products throughout the video to show you that you can do a lot with what you have at home. I use a brayer. This one is from Tim Holtz. I love this brayer. It's been with me for I think 5 years already. And that's the only one I have. And honestly, I do not even clean it specially. I just remove the excess of the paint, but I leave it like that. So it has this grungy feel to it because there are layers of paint on it. And I love it like that. And this is also the type of the page, the ones I showed you before, which I absolutely love. And quite often I do that. I add only a little bit of die cut on top of it, for example, a beautiful flower. And it looks so absolutely elegant to me. It doesn't look grungy. It looks absolutely elegant. And it's an idea of for the cards. And a project like that you can find amongst my shorts because I've done them quite a lot. And they are like projects to go quick, you know, when I feel like, oh, it's been a long time since I didn't post the short or video on my YouTube channel, and this freaking algorithm, I have to fight to, you know, to be visible, so I have to post something, otherwise the algorithm will forget me. So this is really cool from YouTube that, you know, you have to just do things, you know, on schedule, basically, to not be forgotten. So sometimes when that happens, I do just a quick acrylic paint page, and it's very, very quick and very effective. And this one is another way of dealing with acrylics or making acrylic background. And I've done that just because I had some acrylic leftovers on my acetate. So this is also a good thing to add a little bit of, you know, of texture and not waste your paints. And look at that. If you have a lot of acrylic on your transfer acetate, and if you move them a little bit on the page, they actually, when you pull out the acetate paper or acetate, you're gonna get this beautiful kind of like waves on the acrylic, which is super cool. And with acrylic, it's also very cool, as opposed to, for example, markers. You cannot, with markers, you do not have that much precision, I would say. But with acrylics, you do small dots, and look, guys, they are changing into bigger, but they are still kind of dots. Of course, they are not perfect, but who will want to have a perfect dots? If you want to have a perfect dots, you have to use a stamp or some other tool to make dots, but with this one, it looks so nice. And as I always repeat, a little addition of black color, or in this case, this one is Midnight, also chalk acrylic from PaperArtsy, changes so much to your page. It looks so much, it gives the contrast, and it's really nice. So let's start with distress oxides. And I mean, you do not have to have a distress oxides. You can have any type of ink you want. And once again, last week I made a short with some Wendy Vecchi inks. I forgot the names of them, but I did the same technique. And this technique I actually learned from, let me double check for you, I don't want to make a mistake, from Mary Polanco. I've watched her video. I'm gonna give you a link in the description down below. I'm gonna give you a link to her YouTube channel because she has a lot of nice techniques, and this one I didn't know before. So it's thanks to her that I discovered, but I think she discovered that thanks to somebody else. So, you know, that's how the things go around, which is super cool. But I want to give her a credit because it's true. I watched her video and that's how I discovered this technique. And so you use basically aluminium foil, but I decided to put my own spin on it. And for the very first time ever, it's not, you know, very far from aluminium foil, but I'm using cling film to see the difference. And so with aluminium foil, you get this kind of distressed, I don't know, like almost a bark tree motif on the paper. I have no idea how to call it otherwise. With cling film, you get a little bit similar effect, but the elements you print on the paper are a little bit smaller, and there is more color. You know, it's kind of blending more with the background. I don't know how to explain you. The best way is for you to try it. And if you feel that your page is not good enough, add a little bit of black, and that will give you again this nice distressed look and a little bit of contrast, so it will look much nicer. But of course, if you don't want to do that, you can add a little bit of stamping in the background, and it's really nice. And just an idea for those of you who do the card making, you can actually take a washi tape and put the kind of frames around your paper, so like that later when you use this technique and when you remove the tape, you will have the borders which are perfectly rectangular. I didn't do it here because simply I am doing the art journal page, and for me, because I don't do the cards, this is the look I am looking for, a little bit of distress. And another technique, and again I'm gonna be using acrylics from PaperArtsy. Of course you can use any acrylics you want, but I came to love PaperArtsy. I am DT for PaperArtsy currently, and I love working with these particular paints because they have a chalky finish. What I don't like about acrylics, I don't like especially metallic acrylics, and I also don't like acrylics which are having this glossy finish to them. And for that, I absolutely love the PaperArtsy acrylics. They are good quality, they are really nice to work with. And of course, with acrylics, you can apply them with the brush, but yes, you can apply them with the normal brush, making a normal kind of strokes and making the surface even. But what I like to do is to take a big brush, which is kind of dry, don't use any water, and do this type of thing. Grunge once again, but as I said, I love my grunge. And this is one of my stencils, haven't used for a while. And this mat is a mat for stenciling, which I bought in my local shop, which is called Action. I don't know if it exists, I haven't seen it before, but it's basically, it works with magnets, so it's it flattens your stencil when you apply the sprays. So you basically, surely you know this technique that you spray through the stencil. With that, you always can expect surprises, because it all depends on the stencil and on the spray and even on the paper and how flat the stencil is lying on the paper. So as you can see here, I had a little bit too much of the spray somewhere there on the bottom middle, and it didn't work to my liking. But then again, you know, I am a distress artist, so I can crafter rather. I don't like to call myself artist, but I can do something with that. And even if I don't like how the page turned out, I can cut it into small pieces and make ATCs out of that, and that always works. So try not to throw out your things. And this is the technique I absolutely love. This is a negative stenciling, and I haven't been used that too much lately, but look at that, guys. For me, it's just a magic. Just the small you know, flowers which are visible, which are not super well visible, but just a little bit. And for me, this is what I like the most. And I had this idea that I'm gonna add a little bit of blue spray. Those sprays are from Lindy's, and I'm using the same throughout the whole video. So I'm gonna give you a link to all of those paints and list of all of those paints and products I'm using in the description box below. So I decided to add a little bit of blue to the purple one. And I actually very, very much like this color combo. I liked it to the point that I decided to use it on the first page, which you can see on the left-hand side there. And I kind of wasted the page in the process. But, well, you know, you experiment, and the page is not wasted. I'll add some stamping at the end, not in this video though, because in this video I'm doing only backgrounds. But I try to make another video when I'm working with these papers. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm adding a little bit of spray. I didn't want to add a little too much, because if you add too much, they are water reactive sprays. So if you add too much, they will change. The colors will flow together. And I was thinking I add just a little bit, and that wasn't the case, because they started reacting with water. The blue started reacting with the purple one while drying, and I got a little bit of a mess, but you're gonna see it at the end of this video. And here is another technique which I really like. It's just swashing. I have no idea how you call it, but my distress oxides, and I like to work with distress oxides because you can clean them very well if you have a transfer of colors to your pad. I don't know if with others inks you can do that, but distress you can clean very easily. I didn't even have to, because I look at them and they didn't got the transfer of color. Of course, with distress or with other dye-based inks, you can use your sponge to make a nice blending. But I just wanted to show you that instead of using sponge, and not all of you, I'm sure of that, have sponges to do the ink blending. But instead of doing just regular ink blending with the sponge, when you get really nice, you know, borders which are very nicely blended together, you can use them also this way. And as you can see, the borders are more visible, especially between the lime green and the orange one, because the colors are so not similar as opposed to red and the orange one. But once again, I do not care. I wanted to just show you quickly. You can always use your colors, and you know, they can be a little bit more similar to one to the other, and then the borders will not be visible, but you can do it quite quickly like that. This is one of the ways to make a little bit of less perfect look. And that's what I'm always looking forward to, the less perfect things, because I don't know, I think perfection is not a good thing. It's not that I'm judging people who are perfect or who like to do things perfectly, because everybody likes what they like. But to me, I do not want to sweat over doing things perfectly. I just want to have fun when I'm doing my art. I do not really sell it, and so I don't mind. I really do not mind. I'm using now my stamp Bluepines with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I knew that this stamp, the best, because it's so intricate, the best would be to use with the stamping platform, but I didn't bother once again, because I didn't want a super crisp image, as I wanted the background still to be visible, and as I wanted to have grunge, a little bit of grunge. But this stamp, yes, the best is to use it with the stamping platform, because it has too many lines, too many things which have to be really printed well if you want to have a beautiful, perfect image. And so now, once again, back to the chalk acrylics from PaperArtsy. Let me tell you straight away that I'm using only acrylics from PaperArtsy, because I have them. I have quite a lot of them, and I really love them. And you just apply them with a sponge. And so look guys at that. The page on the left hand side was done with the aluminium foil and the cling film, and the other with the sponge. The effect is kind of similar, but once again, everything depends on the basically on the way you use these two materials, on the way your sponge looks like, because different sponges are gonna give you different effects. But coming to this background, I am using now Infusions from PaperArtsy, also one of my favorite powders, and one of my stamps in the background. And I have to tell you guys, this is the best page, I think, out of all those pages I made today. I absolutely love it. I was not sure if I'm gonna, if that's gonna amount to something, and at the end, yes, it did. So basically what you do, you add a little bit of powder. It can be whichever powder you have, like I think brushes are the powders also, I've never had them, but I'm gonna be using Lindy's Magical in a second. and you add a little bit of water. The best is to add water with the brush and add just a little bit, so the paint is mixed, but you can still see the particles, you can still see the powder in it, and like that the paint is not running, and that's what you can do with that. Isn't that just beautiful? I love this technique. I think I was one of the first people to use it. I am not saying that I was the first, but I remember when I started working with Lindy's, that's what I started to do. And for a long time, I couldn't find anybody who was doing that. But that doesn't mean that, you know, there wasn't somebody who was doing that. Surely there was, but I absolutely love this technique. I use it so much with Lindy's. This stamping is just beautiful. You cannot use very maybe intricate stamps hoping that you're gonna get the image well, because with that you're gonna get the image which is not perfect. You're gonna get the image which in some places will run with paint and it's just it will disappear under the paint. But that's the thing, you know, that's the beauty of it. If you want to have a background which is original, colorful, because you can use all the colors you have of your powders, but at the same time, you know, it's unusual because, well, let's say it's unusual. If I did that with a stamp, it would be kind of boring, but when I do it with the paint, look guys at that, it looks so beautiful, and this stamp, it actually works perfectly with that. So I was really happy with this, and I added a little bit of red because I was thinking red with dark blue work really nicely, which it did, and it will give a little bit of peps, I don't know. It will give a little bit of nice touch to the page. And so basically that's what you do, and just wash your stamp afterwards. It's not acrylic paint, so you know it's washable, it's easily washable, so, but just wash it well, so the next time when you use your stamp you do not have a transfer of color, because you know if you use the stamp next time, it's the color is gonna react if you didn't clean it well, and you will get a transfer of colors on your new page. And now I'm using a matte gel, but you can use gesso, also you can use any other things like a I think a kind of glue podge mod. I'm sorry guys, I don't remember. I've never used this product, but I know that other crafters do that also for collaging or collaging glue, and a piece of tissue, just a normal paper tissue, or you can use whichever, and a little bit of napkin, or even the kitchen towels, which usually have some kind of also motif on them, so it can work really nicely. Even a piece of fabric, why not? And the whole idea in that was to actually make a little bit of texture on the page very easily, and like that. When you have this raised texture, and look at me now, so impatient, I didn't even waited until it dries. I'm just spraying straight away with Distress Oxide and Distress Stain. But the whole idea is that the paint will react with the raised texture, and it will, you know, be visible more in one places than in the other. I hope you get what I mean. But because the background is not smooth, you know, the paint will just go into crooks and crannies of the page and stay there, and make it so much more interested later after trying. So I wanted a little bit to remove these two kind of stains of the brown paint. And so I sprayed a little bit with water, and I dabbed it off with a tissue because I had too much water at some point, and I was afraid that the page is gonna warp a lot. And I also let it air dry because for the first time, you know, when I'm doing a lot of pages like that, I can just leave it to air dry because I do not have to bother, since I'm still working on other pages. And this is another way of applying paints I really like. Once again, chalk acrylics and spatula, I think it's called. And with that, you can make movements whichever you want. Like you can add a lot of paint on the on the, how do you call it, on the paper, sorry, or you can add a little bit paint, not even on the paper, on the spatula, and you can just use it, you know, by putting the edge of the spatula on the paper like I'm doing right now, and you kind of get lines. And that you can also use or do with your old credit card, for example, and you will get a similar effect. And I love doing that with the edges of the credit card, and like that I'm getting this kind of distress lines, which are super nice. And now let's go for Tawny Turquoise. This is a Moon Shadow Mist from Lindy's gang. So it's basically a spray which has a walnut color in it, walnut pigment, but it has also a different color in it, apart from the walnut one. In this case, it's a green, it's like an emerald, and I wanted to just spray it and then do something on top of it. So I put it aside till it dries. And now I am doing a little bit of stenciling, and this is the technique you all know. So stenciling, and my all-time favorite cream paste from Stamperia, which I don't seem to be able to find lately. I'm looking everywhere on internet since we don't really have a craft shop beside me, and I cannot find it, and mine is almost gone. So I really do hope I'm gonna get to buy this cream paste. And Stamperia, if you listen to me, I am such a good I'm doing such a good publicity for your cream paste. You can send me some. I don't think they listen to my videos, but still, worth a shot, no? And so it works perfectly. This paste is not running under the stencil. It works so beautifully. And look at this, guys. I would actually, if I was a card maker, I would leave it like that, add some sentiment and maybe some flower or something, like some kind of a die cut to it, and that would be the card finished, like finished. But I decided not to finish. This time I'm gonna be using my Mei Liang watercolors, and I love them. That's the, I think, third or fourth time I'm using them, and they are really very nice. And I just said to myself, for once I've been using so much of Gansai Tambi watercolors, so I'm gonna change it a little bit. But in this case, I really wanted that the cream paste is dry, and because the cream paste is dry, I can add nicely the color. Even spraying it, you know, it will not really react, it will not melt already dry the cream paste. It will color it a little, but I'm not sure if I don't think I recorded it. I think I forgot to record it, but I'm gonna tell you, it's something very easy. When you use the cream paste and when you color it, when the color is dry, all you have to do, you take your, how do you call it, some damp cloth or baby wipe, and you go over these raised surfaces, the surfaces with a cream made by cream paste. And when you do that, the cream paste will become a little bit more white. So it will change the color slightly. Sometimes even it will clean itself really nicely, almost to the white finish. But the fact that you do that, it will accentuate the stencil you used. So it will look, it will give more contrast to the page. And I apologize for that, because right now I've done my edition, and I think this part I actually forgot to record, but I just used a baby wipe, and when the paints were dry, I removed the paint from the raised surfaces. But that you can, of course, do only with the water reactive paints, like watercolors or some sprays, and so bear that in mind. But it's a nice thing to do also. And of course, as with all the paints, you can add a little bit of water to make it, you know, to make the paint run smoothly and wherever you want on your project. I'm gonna be coming back to this page now, because honestly, it's too pinky for me. It's just too sweet, and I do not find myself in it. So my idea was to add black, And I use a normal school grade big pen, black one, to add a little bit of black accents. Of course, you can add stamping to it, but I just wanted to show you one more thing. If you make a lines or wherever you make on the acetate and you spray it ever so slightly, the some of the lights may rest a little bit, just a tiny bit watery, and they will actually give you on the paper this kind of dotted lines, or whichever thing you do. And look at that, they are not actually changed into pools of color, but they stayed in the form of lines. So everything depends on how much water you use. It's that simple. And also with the paper, but at the end, the water is a key. I needed to change the room because my daughter came back from school and I cannot do the voiceover in the kitchen. I was doing it. But coming back to the technique, I use my stencil 1001 Nights, but it was not a good choice because the stencil has too much of the shape of the, well, yes, it's very intricate, and it didn't work well on the brown background. It didn't actually show the its potential. Basically, it didn't print it well. But I decided to leave it because once again I'm gonna do something with it. It's gonna look grungy, but it didn't really show nicely. And I was trying before, which I didn't record as well because I thought that I'm gonna mention. I was trying to remove the put the stencil on this page, colored page, and remove it with the baby wipes, but the paint was so dark that I actually didn't see any effect, so I decided to add the broken china distress oxide. But once again, flip the stencil over and do some negative stenciling if you have a paint on it or ink, and look at that, guys. It doesn't maybe look perfect at this point, but we're gonna continue because you know, do not get discouraged ever. And I'm adding a little bit of ink straight from the box. And then once again, I am putting it on the paper. And everything depends on the amount of the ink you use. And also, if you spray it a little bit with water, which I'm doing right now, or you do not spray it with water, everything really, really depends. So here is the part I sprayed with water, and look at the effect, and straight away you can see the stencil also, which I was thinking I'm not doing a good publicity for this stencil because it didn't work on the brown page, but it does work nicely. And the whole thing is that if you do the stenciling and you have some paint over, just flip it on the other side, unless you really don't like this distress look, but I love it. I absolutely love it. And with this page, I'm gonna do a little bit more, and I am more happier with this page than I was with the one I've done with the Moon Shadow Mist with the brown color. And there is also one more thing I used when I was working with Lindy's gang, and this is the making a background with the embossing powders. You can do it. You don't have to. You know, some of you know that I have a love-hate relationship with embossing powders. I am managing them a little bit better, but before they were just flying over everywhere. Everything was covered in the powder. I was throwing them like, you know, by accident. They were falling on the desk, just getting, you know, just getting all over the place. I really, really do not like them. And I also think that maybe they are not that healthy. You know, when you dry them, you actually breathe the fumes. And I do not like, especially working with embossing powders, I have to tell you honestly. My husband is always complaining because it's loud and it stinks, as he puts it. So I do not work with embossing powders too much. But sometimes I do, and I love, for example, making backgrounds with them, because it's also a way to make backgrounds with them, and you can use so many things to apply the embossing powder to the paper. You can, for example, tear pieces of double-sided tape, put it on the paper, and sprinkle the powder onto the tape, and it's gonna hold the tape. With the embossing powder though, one thing which is very important and I keep on repeating is that you start heating with low setting and from underneath like that when there are places when the embossing powder didn't adhere properly to the page, like that it has time to actually adhere to the page before you put on the high setting heat tool, and then you dry it from the proper side. So it's always best to try to do it from underneath. Of course, you can also use the anti-static cushion, but I keep on forgetting about that. And this is also the thing I discovered while working with the embossing powder. You sprinkle water on the page, and like that you cover the water with the embossing powder, and you have the sprinkle with embossing powder at the end of it. Here I actually use the sprayer bottle and I got some big drops of water. This is not good, and they actually reacted a little bit with the embossing powder underneath. So this is not good. Try to use a smaller droplets of water, so use a brush rather than anything else, but you can actually emboss with water. But coming back to my previous pages, I let them air dry, and let's now see what's happened when I am removing the salts. So those are the two of the first pages. And look at that, because I had a big grain salt, I got this big grained, kind of, I don't know, stains. And then I got also a salt for my bath. Not really, no. I'm not gonna use them because I don't want to come out of the bath all green. But yes, well, they look really nice, the salts. And here is the other page, the one where I put the salts after spraying. And so that's the effect it gave me, and I prefer this effect. So it's better maybe to put it, the salt after you put the paint. And here there are all my 18 backgrounds. I'm gonna go through them one by one, but you're gonna also get the close-ups at the end of this video, so you can have a look. But like that you can see them really the way I see them. And yes, I am really happy with them. I'm gonna try to make a next video, maybe not next because there's gonna be a lot of making, but I'm gonna make a video when I'll try to work on some of the backgrounds, and I'm sure some of the papers I'm gonna cut to ATC size, and I'm gonna do some ATCs with them, especially that I have some orders to send and no ATCs, so I have to make some of them. I do have some favorites like this one and the one I use with my stamp, but you know, I know right now that everybody has a different taste, so you know, my favorites may not be your favorites. And as always, guys, thank you so very much for watching this video. You're gonna get a full list of products in the description box below. I will be so happy if you share this video with your friends, so like that you'll help me to fight this YouTube algorithm, and subscribe, of course, if you didn't subscribe, and if you think that I have something to offer to you in terms of art journaling or yes, or crafting. And I'm gonna give you a link to my shop down below, and to the other video I mentioned before. And I would like to know also which ones are your favorites, if you have any. And maybe if you have some other techniques I didn't use and you find they are unusual, you can share them with us in the comments. This is always appreciated. And I think that would be all from me. Thank you once again, and I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day, a very crafty, with a lot of new ideas, and I'm sending you big hugs. Bye bye.